besties, in today's tutorial we'll be learning how to properly make an off-shoulder wrap top to sit perfectly just like mine is here. We'll also be learning how to make these sleeves exactly as you can see it on your screen. If this seems like something you're interested in, keep on watching and let's get started. To make this, I'll be using this beautiful Ankara print. What I have here is 1.5 yards. I have other things here which are my pattern paper, my rules, my pencil, my scissor and my tracing wheel. Now let's proceed to draft this out. Make sure that what you have here from the top of your pattern paper to the down part is going to be enough to contain the length of your wrap top. For me here, I have 18 inches, which is the length that I want to use. Now proceed to put your pattern paper on fold just like I'm doing here. We'll be cutting this out on fold. From the top of your pattern paper, rule a starting line just like I'm doing. Now this starting line is also going to serve as your shoulder line. Place your tape there at the shoulder line and you are going to mark down your shoulder to your bust point measurement. For me, it is 11 inches. I'm just going to mark this across my pattern paper and connect it with a straight line. The next point you're going to mark is going to be your shoulder to your waistline. For me, it is 17.5 inches. I'll also mark this across the pattern paper and connect with a straight line. Now, for those of you that want yours longer, all you need to do now is to mark out your top length and connect with a straight line. Mine is a crop top, so I won't be doing that. Coming to the shoulder line also, we are going to mark out our neckline. You'll be marking 3 inches for the neck width and come down from that point by 3 inches for the neck depth. Now go ahead and connect these points with a curve to get your neckline. We will not be using this neckline for this tutorial, but this is just to make everything clear. On this shoulder line, go ahead and mark half of your shoulder measurement. For me, it is 7.5 inch. Now come down from that point by 1 inch to get your shoulder slope. This is because our shoulder is not straight. Go ahead and connect this to your neck width just like I'm doing here. The next point you're going to mark is going to be your chest line measurement. Make sure you're marking this from your shoulder slope like I'm doing here. For those of you that don't know how to calculate your chest line measurement, I'll be leaving the formula on the screen so you can calculate yours. Go ahead and connect this with a straight line. On this chest line here, also mark half of your shoulder measurement. This is to enable you to get a straight line to the shoulder slope just like I've done now. So this is what we have here. Now let's go over this. This is your shoulder line, this is your chest line, your bust point and your waistline. Now that we are done with that, divide what you have from the shoulder slope to the chest line by 2. Mark the midpoint, coming from that point by 0.5 inch. On the chest line, divide your bust measurement by 4. Mine is 9.5 inches. Now I'll be adding ½ inch for ease. This is because a wrap top is not supposed to be exactly tight on your body, so it will be easy for you to wrap it properly. Now go ahead and connect this point back into the midpoint and to the shoulder slope using your curve like I'm doing here. We'll also be marking the same measurements we have on the chest line on the bust point. On the waistline, also divide your waist circumference by 4 and add ½ inch for ease. Before we proceed to connect all these points together, make sure to add your stitching allowance. I'll be adding a stitching allowance of 1 inch to each of these points. Go ahead and connect all these points together just like you see me doing. We have drafted our half scale basic bodice without the darts. This is because this is a wrap top and you don't need darts here. The next thing you'll be doing now is to transfer everything you have on this side of the pattern paper to the other side of the pattern paper. Now there are 2 ways to do this. It's either you use your tracing wheel to trace out everything you have here, and just like you used to do in nursery or primary school, you use your pencil to outline it. Or you can use your scissors to cut out through the lines you have here, and then using that as a guide, you connect it to the other side of the pattern paper. But for me, I'll be using my tracing wheel, so please watch how I'm going to be doing this so you know exactly how to go about yours. So I'm done tracing it here. You guys, you can't see the trace line. They're more like dotted lines, but I can see it, and if you use tracing wheel, you are going to see it also. Now I'm just going to go ahead and trace out all my dotted lines just like you see me doing here. Now I have my full pattern here. Now the next thing we are going to do is to create the off shoulder. To create the off shoulder, the first thing we are going to do here is to come down from the armhole side by about 5 inches or 5.5 inch. I'll be using 5 inches. You can also do 4 inch if you want yours to have more coverage. And from this point, we are going to be connecting a curve all the way to the other side of the pattern paper. You can see how I place my curve rule there. If the line that passes through here goes up, you have more coverage, and if it comes down, you have less coverage. So have that in mind. On this other side, go up from the waistline by 2 inches. Now this point here is the point where we are going to attach the rope that we'll use to create the wrap. Now what we'll be doing is to connect what we have there on the arm side into these 2 inches that we marked here. And that's it, guys. It's this easy to create your off shoulder wrap top. Now the next thing we are going to do here is to proceed and cut this out just like I'm doing. After cutting this out, this is what you should have. We'll be using this to cut out both the left and the right side of the wrap top. Now on this side of the wrap top, you are going to add 1 inch while cutting it out on your fabric. I'm sorry I wrote 0.5, but it's actually 1 inch here. To the bottom part, you'll be adding 1 inch, and then to the side here, you'll be adding 0.5 inch so that you can connect it to your rope. Now let's proceed to draft out the back pattern. The back pattern is pretty basic. From the top of your pattern paper, rule a starting line, which is also going to serve as your shoulder line, just like I've done here. From this line, you're going to go in from the center back by 3 inches as the neck width. We'll not be drawing out the neckline because this is an off shoulder, right? Also on this line here, mark half of your shoulder measurement. Mine is 7.5. From that point, you're going to come down by 1 inch for your shoulder slope and connect it into the neck width with a straight line. From the shoulder slope, mark down your chest line measurement. I'll be leaving the formula on the screen for you to calculate yours. On this chest line, also mark half of your shoulder measurement. This is to enable you to get a straight line to the shoulder slope like this. Now this is the chest line, right? And this is our shoulder line. The next measurement you'll be marking is going to be your waistline. We will not be needing the bust line measurement here because this is the back, and we'll also be marking the bust measurement on the chest line, so there's no need for the bust line here. I'll be marking down my waistline measurement and connect with a straight line. Divide what you have from the shoulder slope to the chest line by 2, mark the midpoint, and then on the chest line you're going to mark quarter of your bust measurement, which is your bust divided by 4. Make sure to add your ½ inch for ease. Go ahead and connect these 2 points together to get your armhole curve. On the waistline, mark quarter of your waist measurement and make sure to add ½ inch for ease. Now go ahead and connect these 2 points together. You guys, I forgot to add my stitching allowance, so I'm just going to add my 1 inch stitching allowance to the sides and connect it together. The next thing we are going to do now is to draw out our neckline. When it comes to the neckline for the back, I'm going to bring in my front piece. You need to make sure that the armhole on the front and on the back is either the same or the difference should not be much. So you can go ahead and just measure out what you have on your front armhole and then use that as a guide for your back armhole. So I already know the measurement from my front armhole, so I'm just going to use that as a guide to draw out my back armhole. So from the chest line here, I'm just going to go up by 2 inches and connect with a straight line. My front armhole is actually bigger than my back armhole, but the difference is not much, okay, because I didn't want my back neckline to be that high. Now you can either use a straight neckline, but for those of you that don't want to do that, from the back neckline you can come down by about ½ inch or 1 inch and use your curve to connect it together depending on how you want it to be. Now we are done with this. Go ahead and cut this out just like I'm doing here. After doing that, this side here will be cut on fold. At this upper part here, we are going to add 1 inch stitching allowance. So it's either you hem it by folding it in and top stitching, or you use a facing. To the bottom part here, we are going to add 1 inch for hemming allowance. Now that we have our back and our front pattern ready, we are going to proceed to cut this out on our fabric and let's join it together. So I've already done that here using the instructions I gave earlier. For the back, I've cut out my facing, and make sure that if you are using facing that you cut it on fold because the back is on fold, right? Go ahead and open this up. Place the facing on the right side of the fabric, pin it together, and you're going to stitch this down using ½ inch stitching allowance. For the front also, I have 2 pieces here, and as you can see, one is for the left and one is for the right. Our wrap top is coming together. Now I'm just going to use one to illustrate what we'll be doing. I've already gone ahead to cut out my facing, and you can see what I have here. For my facing, I used 2 inches for the width all the way to the length of my top. Go ahead and pin it down. Now before we go ahead and stitch this down, we'll be attaching our rope to this. For the rope, I have this piece of fabric I already cut, which is on fold, and what I have here is 2.5 inches, as you can see, and for the length I have about 36 inches. Now all we'll be doing here is to stitch this down at the end here using 1/2 inch and also close up one of the side. We'll be leaving the other side open, which we'll be using to turn out the rope. When you're done doing that, you make sure that it's the open end of the rope that you insert in between the main fabric and the facing like this. So what you do now is to go to your machine, do what I just said, and then stitch this down using 1/2 inch stitching allowance. After doing this, you can see what I have for the back. Also make sure to finish up your facing and your lining using a hemming gum so it gives a neat finish. So I'm just going to bring in my front piece like this, and you can see that my front piece also has been joined, and I've used my hemming gum to finish it up nicely. Now go ahead and place it right sides facing each other like I've done here. The next thing you're going to do here is to stitch it down using the stitching allowance that I added. After doing that, you can see how beautiful this turned out. I forgot to mention, do not forget to leave an opening on one side, so you can just go up by about 1/2 inch or 1 inch, and then from there you are going to have an opening of 1.5 inch, which you'll be using to insert your rope. So this is what I mean. I'm just going to use this side and put the rope through this way. Now this is exactly what you should have. Okay, now the next thing we are going to do now is to proceed to cut out our sleeves. To cut out the sleeve, I have this piece of fabric here which is on fold because we are cutting out for 2 sides of our sleeve, and the width I have here is about 19 inches. For the length, I have about 28 inches, which is the full length of my sleeve. I'll just add extra 2 inches and make that 30 and cut this out. And the first thing we are going to do here is to create the channel which will be inserting our elastic band, and to do that I'm just going to fold this in by about 1/2 inch and further fold it in again by 1 inch. This is because I'm using the 1 inch elastic band, so I'll need my channel to be bigger. After doing that, this is what you should have. Make sure that you create the channel on both sides of the sleeve. Now the next thing we'll be doing here is to cut out our armhole, and to cut out the armhole I'm just going to bring in my fabric this way, and I'm going to place it on one end of my sleeve. Make sure that you put it 1/2 inch away from the side. Okay, go ahead and cut this out. And to cut out the other side, just simply fold it into 2 and cut this out to get a uniform cut. Now open this up. We'll be inserting our elastic band on this side here that we have. So to know how many inches of elastic band you should insert, you're going to divide your round arm around that area by 2. So for me it's 15 inches divided by 2. I have about 7.5, right? I'm going to go ahead and remove 1.5, so you can remove either 1.5 or 2 inches. Okay, this is because it's an elastic band, so it's still going to stretch, but you don't need it to be loose. I'm going to use my safety pin to insert this through this place here. Now while inserting this, make sure that you pin it down when it gets to the end on both sides, and then you're going to go to your machine and tag this down to secure it in place. You can see that I've done this on the both sleeves. Also on this sleeve, you'll notice that there's an elastic band on the lower part of the sleeve. So from the top, I'm just going to mark 18 inches. Now this is how I determine the length of elastic band I use on this area. All I just do is to take my elastic band and stretch it from one end to another and then cut it out. You can see exactly how I did that. I'll just cut out 2 pieces for my 2 sleeves. After doing this, you can see how beautiful my sleeve came out. Now the next thing is to insert it to the wrap top. So to insert it to the wrap top, I'm going to open up this side of my top just about 1 inch down. Then I'm going to take my sleeve and place it on the right side of my fabric this way and pin it down. I'll also take the other side of my sleeve and place it right sides facing each other at the back armhole also. What you're going to do here is to stitch it down using 1/2 inch stitching allowance, and when you are done, you are going to turn it over to the wrong side and you are going to close up your sleeve all the way to the point where you opened on your top. And that will be it, guys. When you are done, make sure to go ahead and hem your top and give this a really good press. You guys can see how beautiful mine came out. This is really easy to make, and I hope this tutorial was helpful. Please make sure to share this to family and friends who you think would need this. I'll see you guys in my next tutorial.